Well, a very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Respected guests, I'm your host, a proud member of Al-Yamama University family, Asad Al-Asad. And on behalf of our university, I would like to welcome you all to this annual feature event, the CEO Dinner, where we host one of the leading CEOs to inspire our young generation of leaders, the leaders of tomorrow. You, ladies and gentlemen, our dear postgraduate students and alumni from Al-Yamama University. Our guest this year is very special, not only because he is leading one of the key giga projects of Vision 2030, the Inzerillo Gate Development Authority, which by itself is a very big reason to want and wish to host him and talk to him. And not because of his massive record of achievement and success and his world-class global reputation as a hospitality and tourism guru, but for a very special reason, for his style of leadership, which is so impactful and so inspiring that everybody who worked with him believes that he is an exceptional leader, simply because he humanizes leadership and demonstrates the highest level of passion and care for his profession and his people. The busboy from Brooklyn, as he likes to refer to himself with his beginning. He went through so many stations in life and in career, met so many people, worked with so many celebrities, learned from them, worked for them, helped them. I can name people like Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, celebrities like Michael Jackson and this caliber. He brings an immense record and history of leadership at all levels. But one thing he keeps emphasizing as a lesson that he learned through his journey is to serve your profession and serve your people. And this is going to be our start, Mr. Inzerillo, when we talk about leadership. And thank you for being with us and giving us the time. We're going to focus in our talk about three main themes. Our first theme is going to be about leadership. We'll talk later about AI, technology, and leadership. And we will also speak about a very important and dear topic, Saudi youth. We're going to have something like 25, 30 minutes to cover these, and then there's going to be a Q&A session for our guests. So if we may start with the idea of leadership. There's a quote here that I would like to see, that I would like to show you here by Nelson Mandela. Can we get that slide, please, over there? Ah, yeah, I think it's there. Like, if you want the cooperation of humans around you, you must make them feel they are important. And you do that by being genuine and humble. You've worked with Mr. Mandela, and what can you tell us about the leader as a human being?
First of all, let me say what a profound honor it is for me to be with you. What you're all going to find years from now is how fast time goes. And my fuel, the thing that makes me wake up in the morning so positive, is all of you. And the great thing when you get older, you want to hang out with the youngins, because you are the fuel, and we'll talk about Saudi Arabia. And life is complicated in many ways, and all of you are on your way not just to finish your Bachelor of Science and your Master's degrees, but all of you, every single one of you in this room, is destined for a big leadership position. You're going to have to inspire people, and you're going to have a tremendous impact on this blessed kingdom in the years ahead, if not in many countries all over the world. But I want to point something out to you about the great Nelson Mandela, who was like a second father to me, and who spent 27 years in prison for fighting for the rights of his people. Let me point something out, which I'm just seeing now. But before I do, I have to praise and thank this wonderful university, and I have to thank my friend, President Ramadan, not only for the invitation and the leadership, but for his great leadership, because he is one of my role models and he inspires me. And I'm hoping that if I get a little time in doing today, he'll allow me to enroll back in this college so I could become you. But I want to point something out. You see Mandela's hands here? Dr. Ramadan. You see Mandela's hands here? You see those hands? This is one of the great men of our century. Now, you know what this means? Same thing as this, right? We are all God's children. So we have an obligation to serve each other equally. Life is not fair. As leaders, you're going to go out there idealistically, and you're going to go out with well-intentions, but you're going to find that everything is not equal. But you cannot lose faith. And after 27 years in prison, instead of going out being bitter, he said, I have to put that bitterness behind me because I have a society to serve. Now, we are extremely blessed because it's rare in historic terms that a country has one empathetic, compassionate, visionary leader, and we have two. So we have to start by giving all of our blessings and praise to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, may God bless him, for his wonderful leadership, and because he cares. He cares. You know, if you're non-Saudi and you ask people about King Salman outside the country, what's his reputation? He'll stop you and say, oh, I knew your grandfather, I knew your father, I knew the village. When he was governor, he would go to funerals and weddings. He cares. And now you have a young superstar crown prince, young like you. And he's a visionary, and he cares. So what happens is that a lot of times when prosperity comes, when money comes, you only think about your future. But what's unique about this king and this crown prince, why it goes to DGDA, is because DGDA is the birthplace of the kingdom. It is the ancestral home of Al Saud. It is the source of pride of all Saudis. And it is the home of the national identity of Saudis. So why hide it? Why is it a secret? Open up the kingdom to tourism, which I've been saying for years. If you don't, and you don't allow visitors in, and you don't allow journalists in, everybody's going to perpetuate this boring myth that the kingdom is just deserts and camels. Boring when you have one of the most beautiful countries on earth, physically. Then the second thing, allow people to come to interact with some of the kindest, most generous people on earth, the Saudis. You go to any Saudi household, wealthy or poor, the first thing they'll do is give you everything. A Saudi coffee, a date. This is a generous, warm society. Open it up. Let people come visit. So we have to praise His Majesty the King and the Crown Prince for the courage of opening it up to G20 country. By the way, the fastest accomplishment of G20 than any country in the history. And it will become G10. But this crown prince is going to need leaders, and guess where he's going to be looking to? You. So dream big, but that is indicative of the man. And after all that time serving as president, my obligation in the years ahead are to serve my people and make sure they're healthy, happy, and educated.
Exactly, and that takes us again to speak here about the concept of service and people. Like, I've seen some of your talks in many forums and in conferences, and I've seen how much you emphasize people and service as core issues for any leader to focus on. Now, when we talk about people, maybe we can talk about two categories here. People inside your organization, your staff, your employees, and people outside, that is your clients. And when you talk about focusing on people, I kind of ask myself and wonder, is Jerry more focused on people that is inside rather than outside? Do you prioritize which people as a leader or CEO, from your perspective, you should care about most or first, so that you can serve the other group, if we can put it in this
That's a wonderful
context?
question. I have found over 50 years, selfishly, that I get my fuel to work hard by those around me. So I try to surround myself with the best and brightest. We attract the best. 83% of our staff is Saudi. 36% of our staff is Saudi women. 16% of those Saudi women are in management, equal pay, equal everything. 14% of our staff are from the community we serve of DGDA. So my team, of which many are here tonight, I want to thank you, God bless you, I love you, will be 2,000 people by the end of the year. They have me fired up every day. Now, raise your hand if you know the hotel company, Four Seasons Hotels. Raise your hand. All right? Oh, good. Everybody, pretty much everybody knows. I think everybody would agree, a very qualitative, excellent company, right? The founder and chairman of Four Seasons Hotels, a Canadian by the name of Isidore Sharp, he says, I don't have to worry about my guest because I spend all my time on my staff who serve my guests. So if I spend the majority of my time on my team, those that I am privileged to serve with, they will go out and serve, which are bigger numbers than one person can do, right? So now, the Crown Prince, with Vision 2030, is revolutionizing this blessed kingdom. But he is one person. So if he inspires 100,000 leaders who can go out and inspire 38 million people, those 38 million people are going to set the example for billions of people, and the world is a better place. So that's why this Vision 2030 is great. And that's why, even though some people say at my age, you should be in Tuscany drinking red wine, they may be right. But I said, if I have an opportunity to come and make his team, if I can be a brick in the wall of His Majesty and the Crown Prince's team, I want in on that, because it's not just that I love DGDA. I feel the positivity and optimism of this kingdom, and I think out of all 238 countries in the world right now, probably the most positive right now is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I want in on that. So that's why I'm here.
If we elaborate a little bit on the idea of service, how can you explain it? Like, if you are going to serve, how do you see service as a value? Being a leader.
You see,
how is service a source of pride and honor to you as a leader?
You see, here's the misconception about service. People think if you serve, it's demeaning. I'm not here to serve you. You should serve me. Wrong. Now, all of you know probably one of the most famous authors of William Shakespeare. Okay, you've heard of William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Well, one of Shakespeare's most beautiful works is a work called Romeo and Juliet. A love story, granted.
Well known.
But there is a line in Romeo and Juliet where Juliet says to Romeo, "The more I give to thee, the more I have." What happens in service is if you serve, there's nothing demeaning, right? The more you serve, the more you get. Now, I'm an Italian Catholic kid from Brooklyn, New York, so I'm the last one to quote the Holy Quran. But I will tell you two things that I do love. I do love, may Allah accept all your good deeds. I do love that. But you know what else I love? May Allah accept all your good intentions. It doesn't say may Allah accept your results. Because you could be very successful and be selfish and mean-hearted, and Allah will not receive you that way. But you could be well-intended and not successful, and Allah will receive you that way. So in service, you're giving of yourself. So you will always get that back. Now, there's two words in Latin that I really do not like, and I'll be controversial. Two words in Latin. There's a word, subservient. This is a disgraceful word in my language. You're telling me that because I serve, I'm below you? Subservient? Because I serve, it's nobility of thinking. And any great leader has to serve. Any great leader. The second word that I absolutely detest is subordinate. You mean to tell me the people that I work with are below me? The people I work with are me. Now, you know in graduate school, you learned this. You know the pyramid, the management pyramid? All right, you all have it in your head, right? That's not the real world. You know what that management pyramid is? Same triangle, turn it upside down. The leader serves up. The leader does not serve down. Now, if you get this now, and you see leadership as inspiring people to be the best version of themselves, you will command armies, and I don't mean military armies.
And that is what we say in Arabic. We have a saying in Arabic, Sayyidul Qawmi Khadimuhum. Some people mistake it as a hadith or whatever, but it has become very common. Like, the leader of a nation is their servant. That's what we say that in Arabic.
Right. Now, you know, historians can contest this, but...
You probably told me about the story with your dinner with...
Yeah, now, we're very blessed because in our time, we have His Royal Highness Turki Al Faisal. Many of you know him. And one night, I was at a dinner, and he was talking historically about how the king got the title or the reference to custodian of the two holy mosques. It's a very beautiful title, huh? Right? But actually, in the original translation, the translation wasn't custodian of the two holy mosques. It was the servant of the two holy mosques.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. I would suggest to you, this is beautiful, right? Because to serve. Now, I don't know a greater servant. I don't know anyone who has a better reputation of serving his society better than King Salman. I don't. And this is the same true of the Crown Prince.
That is very well understood. Now, let's move on to another idea about this CEO or this leader as a human being is now more and more having to work with the machine. And by the machine, I'm talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about technology that is taking a huge part of decision-making, planning, even implementing things. As a leader and CEO, where do you see the future? Do you think like there's a threat to the human being? Will there be ever an artificial intelligence CEO who creates strategies, takes decisions, and...
Well, you know, we're very blessed because not only this university, but I think one of the foremost authorities in technology and artificial intelligence would be our own President Ramadan. When I grow up, I want to have a Bachelor of Science, Master's, the PhD like he does. But right now, I'll stick to cleaning tables. But let me just say this. I have a very simple theory on technology. If technology serves humanity, it's appropriate. If technology replaces humanity, it's inappropriate. We are gathered, there's a saying that we may not share the same ideology. We may not share the same theology, but we share the same biology. Now, in every language, children of 3 or 4 and kids like me, much older, every day, every country, every language say the same thing. But we say it so fast, you don't concentrate on the words. What's the answer all over the world when someone says, thank you, you're welcome, thank you, you're welcome, thank you, you're welcome? Let's slow it down a minute. Thank you, you are welcomed. What's the nicest thing you could say to someone? You're welcomed. Now, that's human interaction. As the technology progresses now, it's a tool. It's a tool. It allows us to serve. It allows us to be more comfortable. It allows us to be convenient. But the minute the technology steps on the human interaction, the human connectivity, that's where I'm worried. And that's where I draw the line. So we are very pro-technology. The Crown Prince, if you want to talk to the Crown Prince about robotics and artificial intelligence, he's already there. By the way, you may not know this, but in the last 2 years, I think it's 3, but I'm going to say the last 2 years, Saudi Arabia is the largest investor in the world in artificial intelligence and technology. Because here's the thing, DGDA celebrates our national identity. DGDA is our home. It's the home of Al Saud. But when you look at NEOM, you've heard NEOM. NEOM is someone who's going to be a young king at some point, hopefully many years down the line. So what the Crown Prince is thinking now is not how do I create a futuristic city. That's not his motivation. The Crown Prince's motivation is what is the quality of life for my people? How will they be healthier, happier 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now with their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren? And that new methodology of quality of life will have to be technology-driven. So that's why he's investing in all of this technology, because the technology will aid the quality of life, but it shouldn't interfere with human connectivity.
If we speak now, take that a little bit further, and when we speak about technology and how it enables and increases like intelligence, and we know that also one of the key skills that are required now is emotional intelligence, that the CEO or the leader should have a high degree or a high level of emotional intelligence. What is the role of emotional intelligence? How could it be very well invested, implemented in a workplace?
Yeah, you see, one of the things that you're all going to learn very quickly, when you get to the top, you're going to get there quickly, and then you're going to find out it's very lonely. Because at the top, all the tough decisions come to you. So how do you smooth that loneliness out? By being welcomed by the people you work with and being part of them. The minute you separate yourself from them, you become isolated. When you become isolated as a leader, the loneliness only gets worse. You start talking to yourself. And when you stop listening and seeing your people, you move farther away from what the truth is. So I find that for my self-esteem, my happiness, because I'm human, okay, I have the privilege of being the CEO of DGDA. It's a great honor for me, but it's lonely. And you know how I overcome my loneliness? I get out of my office, I walk around, give everybody a high five, salam alaikum, how you doing? Let's have a coffee. You know, I'm with my people, and they make me happy, and then I go up, and then I go back to the office and yell at everybody. No, I don't really yell at everybody, but
Absolutely. And this is probably one of the most important reasons why everybody that I've met who works at the DGDA, they speak about Jerry with so much passion, with so much love. They feel like you're not just the big boss or just the leader, but this bond that you have created in your environment is really pushing forward that success.
Yeah, and there's a caveat, and I'd like to share the caveat with everybody. There are two types of effective leaders. This is a military analogy. And they're equally effective, but you have to decide which you're going to be. You have generals who are on the beach with the troops, on the beach with the troops. And they're there and say, we're going to get through this, come on. It's war, it's not easy, let's go. And you have camaraderie. They're effective generals. You got to be a little careful with that, because when you're a general on the beach, what's the leadership of how the battle is being fought? But then you have other type of generals that are on the mountain with the binoculars that have a clearer vision of where the battle's being fought, but they're detached from their own, and it's very hard to win the emotional side of that battle. Now, I chose as a career path to be a general on the beach with the troops. That's my choice. Both are effective. I would say nowadays going forward, you have to be with your troops and not separate from them.
Thank you so much for bringing all this insight, Jerry. I would like now to move to the third theme that we're going to discuss, which is our gathering here, Saudi youth. I believe like this generation of Saudis, and if you permit me to say, like I've been here blessed to be in Saudi Arabia for the past 18 years, and I've started with Al Yamama for a long time, and I've been so blessed to see and witness the change that has taken place. And I believe, and I'm sure like you do agree with me, this generation now is the envy of the world.
Envy.
This generation is now being enabled, empowered, abundant opportunity is given to them, and we can see the success that they are achieving by strides and leaps. And you're working, like you said, in the DGDA with a huge percentage of young men and women. But if we take this beautiful, positive spirit, I think we should also somehow think a little bit and reflect, call it like a sort of SWOT analysis of Saudi youth. What would you tell Saudi youth, as we can see them here sitting in this room, and to Saudi youth in general? The things they need to capitalize on and things they need to be careful about, so their march to the future is on solid ground and they can fulfill and achieve all their goals, personal goals, and also the goals of the kingdom.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Two things, and I know this intimately because I've had many conversations with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. He's young himself. To be a G20 leader at, he's only 36 now, to be such an accomplished leader for 5 years now, it's a very daunting responsibility. The world is a complicated place. We have put in DGDA a robust budget for the development of our team. He has never, even with COVID, taken one SAR out of it, because he wants a happy, healthy society, and he knows the future is dependent on all of you. So what I would say to you is, you're right about it being a historic time in the kingdom. But there is only one thing separating you from your dreams, and that's your passion and your work ethic. One night I was at a dinner with the Crown Prince, and there were some heads of state and major CEOs. Not a big dinner, about 15 people. And one of the heads of state said to the Crown Prince, "Your Royal Highness, I've come to the kingdom quite a bit, but in the last few years, it's a different kingdom. I feel a different energy. Congratulations. What do you attribute this to?" And the Crown Prince said, "My father," who happens to be the king, "my father always taught me, surround yourself with passionate people." This is important. So right now in the kingdom, the only thing that separates you from your dreams, and I would suggest to you that your dreams be big. You know, we have a saying, shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll live amongst the stars. Shoot for it. This crown prince will support you because he needs the leaders, and you are the leaders. Now, unfortunately, the world is complicated. There's a lot of prejudice out there. Ethnic prejudice. There was a lot of, when I came up in the hotel business, there were no jobs for women, you know, except for housekeeper or personnel director. Now, women are equal in terms of the workforce. They're equally educated. They're really dedicated, especially the Saudi women. What I would caution you on is do not lose faith. And remember that one of the most underrated qualities of great leaders is humility. Nobody did it alone. Everybody did it as a team. You know, I run into people, I did this, I did that. Really? You had nobody with you? Right? So humility, patience, perseverance. There is a great Japanese axiom, motto. I love it. It's defined my life. You know what it is? Get knocked down 6 times, get up 7. This is a quality of leaders, because you're going to get knocked down. And you know what you do? Okay, we'll get through this. Come on, let's go. Get up. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Now here, you're driven because if you have a big wave in the ocean, and you try to swim against it, not that easy. That's what's happening in a lot of countries. What's happening in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia now is you're swimming with the wave, and it's a big wave called MBS. Huh? It's a big wave. Big one. So what I would say to you, my beloveds, get that surfboard out and let's go surfing towards the future, a bright future. This kingdom is blessed. It had best days. The Saudis are known for perseverance, for unity. First Saudi state destroyed. What happened? Second Saudi state destroyed. What happened? Third Saudi state. G20 status on the way to G10 status. Dream big. Go. Let's go. Come on. Because the Crown Prince needs you. And this university is an incubator for talent. An incubator for talent, which will continue to throw out men and women to satisfy Vision 2030. And by the way, the Crown Prince probably wouldn't like me to say this. I have a funny feeling that when we get to 2030, he's going to say, Habibi, let's go to 2040.
That is such an inspiration. If we can just a little bit follow up on the issue of also Saudi youth, and since our students are studying for MBAs, EMBAs, middle managers, some of them approaching senior C-level, will be CEOs, is there something that you believe that they need also to develop? Any skills that they need to grow? Any courses that you would, for example, suggest that they would follow or take? Something that can also enable them further and strengthen them on their way.
Yeah, I think
Is an MBA enough? Is an EMBA enough? Or
well,
is there
I think
something
the paradigm,
more that can be done beyond that?
Yeah, the paradigm has changed. When you look at leadership 10 years from now, 20 years from now, one has to understand image of countries. So one has to be cognizant of marketing, because now you can't just go back on your image. You have to control your image. Number 2, technology you're all pretty hip to. But the world is changing quickly, and you have to be on top of it, and the technology is going to drive a lot of the decision making. The other thing is that you have to know finance. Now, I'm not saying that you need a PhD or an MBA in finance, but this is a global economy now, and you have to understand how money and how economies work. You don't, you know, all of you, I hope I'm not offending anybody that really loves calculus, but no one's going to sit down with you in the executive office and ask you to go through calculus or trigonometry and, you know, what's the difference between this geometry and this algebra. But you got to know national trends of finance, because that corporate finance, global finance is very important for leaders going forward, especially when you're going to be working multinationally. For those of you who have an aptitude for law and you have an exceptional dean of the law school here, legal thinking is very important.
Yes.
But the big thing now is technology will drive a lot of your decisions 10 years from now. It does now. Finance, global finance, very important. Law in terms of logic. The other thing that comes from the heart that you don't need courses on, and that is you're only as good as the people around you. So you must respect your workforce. You must respect your colleagues. I say to my beloved every time I talk to them, which is often, it is not what we do, it's who we are. DGDA is a culture, value-driven place. Now, it doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean we don't get let down. But when you go to work, you're entitled to be dignified, respected. If you're going to pray, you should pray in a clean, beautiful place. If you're going to eat, you should eat in a clean, beautiful place. If you're going to wash, respect and dignity are fundamentals to the golden rule, and it is the obligation of every leader to provide that, and not isolate into some mythical ivory tower.
Big office and
well, it doesn't matter if you have a big office, because that could be just theater.
yeah, I mean, just a stereotype.
You know,
like,
it could be theater. But what I'm just saying is, you are your people. You're a reflection of the people you surround yourself with. And it's never about you. And service, here, final comment, and I hope we have some questions. Please do not worry about compensation. Please do not worry about awards. There's a beautiful saying. Man gives awards. Allah gives rewards. Okay? So
Absolutely.
don't worry about the awards. Serve your people. Serve to the best of your heart. Give it everything you have, and Allah will take care of everything else.
Thank you so much. And with this, I think it's time so we can open it for Q&A for the questions that our students and our guests would like to ask.
I would love that.
Please, any questions? I think we have some people with microphones if you want to ask any questions related to the themes, or maybe to ask Jerry from his home.
Whoever asks the first question gets a
Yes.
second dessert, because it's hard to get the first question.
Let's take the second question then. I don't know, the organizers with the microphones are over there. Oh yes, the lady over there, please. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't see you because the lights are just so strong.
How do you find these leaders? You are surrounded with leaders who work with you. What kind of questions that when you ask these leaders, you can say, okay, they culturally fit the place that we, or the mission that we are working on.
Yeah, I think the first way to recognize a leader, people are not born leaders. I mean, they may have some God-given personality traits and stuff like that, but leadership is an accumulation of experience and traits and values, right? But a lot of it emanates from simple passion. Now, one of the things, it's a little bit of a trick, but when I'm interviewing people, and I don't get to interview the whole staff anymore, you know, there's a structure. But when I did interview everybody, there was a magic thing in an interview And if somebody said to me, I really, really need this job, I really want this job, please give me the chance, I won't let you down, I would look at that person and I would say, that's a person that really is going to put everything into it. That person's got to be on the team, right? Now, I would like to take 30 seconds to talk about success and failure, illustrated by an example. Simply speaking, there's a lot of reasons why people are successful, and there's a number of reasons why people fail, okay? Now, when you become CEOs, as you're all destined to be, or ministers, you're going to see that success or failure is either attitudinal or environmental. Now, what does that mean? So I'm going to make something up, and I'm going to say that the Crown Prince says, I want to beautify Riyadh, so I'm going to go to the private sector and say, will you keep one street clean? One. And if everybody keeps their one street clean, the city will be clean. Okay, well, maybe you don't want to clean the street yourself. So you go out and advertise, and you say, I need someone to clean the street. Here's what the pay is. I'm going to walk out with you on that street that day and show you what the standard is. I'm going to show you what my standard of cleanliness is. And then, do you want the job? Yes, I want the job. Now, you come back, right? And the street is not clean. And you go back to the person you hired and you said, I thought we had an understanding on this. We did. I thought you accepted the pay and you knew what we expected. I did. But when I woke up this morning, I didn't feel like cleaning the street. Attitudinally, are you going to make the team? I don't think so. Now, you go back the next day, separate circumstance, and the street is a disaster. It's dirty. And this is unusual. I thought we had a deal. We did. I thought you said the pay was okay. It is. I thought you said you were motivated to go. I am. But why is the street dirty? You didn't give me a broom. You didn't give me a pail. You gave me nothing to clean the street. You can't blame the staff member for that, because that's an institutional or an environmental failure where the structure of the organization had someone willing but didn't give them the resources in which to do their job, right? That's different than attitudinal failure. Everybody with me? So one of the jobs of you as leaders is to surround yourself with the best and brightest people, see potential, but there is a saying in Buddhism that could apply to everything. It's really beautiful. I hope you'll remember this. There's a saying in Buddhism that has to do with potential. The tiny seed carries the promise of the mighty tree. But the seed is only as good as how you nurture it, and that's one of the principal jobs of leadership. You gotta pick out the good seeds, and you have to nurture it and grow it into the mighty tree. And at DGDA now, we're filled with mighty trees. They're not mighty yet, they're semi-mighty, but they're on their way to being mighty. And the kingdom is filled with all of you that are on your way to becoming mighty trees.
Thank you. Some more questions, please, Doctor.
Abdullah Hussaini, Director of MBA program at Imam University. A question or a comment that I have and I receive from our students a lot is the transition after getting an MBA. We enable them with lots of skills, starting from critical thinking to analysis. However, many of our students, they have very wonderful ideas, great ideas, promising. The thing they are facing is that resistant to change. So they have a great idea, but they face a very hard resistance to change. Sometimes the easy answer is that just bring a great idea and everybody will accept it. However, we have other calculations, as you know, in leadership, in management. How can we align our great ideas with these new skills and having the same strategy or the same, I would say, mindset with the whole organization. Thank you very much.
If you come out with fresh thinking, especially post-MBA, and you go into institutions or organizations that are mature and resistant to change, how do you come in where they say, this person is a pain in the neck and they got more ideas than work ethic? How do you overcome that? That's a complicated, it's a simple question, it's a complicated answer. What I've found is that when you're new in a job, right? Take the first 30, 60, 90 days, and instead of impressing everybody that you're an MBA, get into the organization and assimilate. Learn the culture, learn the norms and mores, and become trusted. And then when you're assimilated and everybody knows your values as a person, you know, I have an idea. What's your idea? Well, I think if we do this, it may benefit what we're doing. Well, you know, it's interesting because Abdul Rahman's a good guy, hear him out. Or Sarah is a great girl, hear her out. Because what happens is that there is a university in the United States of America that was renowned for hotel administration. It was one of the most famous. Many of you have heard of Cornell University in America. But all the rich kids went there, all the elite kids went there. And because of the university, the faculty said, you are the elite. You are the chosen ones. Well, that might not have been the best idea because all these kids came out of college and expected to be a general manager of a hotel within 1 year. So when they came into a hotel and had to serve guests 24/7, it's not an easy job, they got rejected by their peers as being elitist. Now, us working kids that came from the poor families that went to UNLV, the culture of our school is get educated, be leaders, but be amongst yourselves. So we went in and assimilated and got people to know us and said, hey, you know, if we do that, and then we moved much faster than the Cornell kids, where now the University of Nevada, Las Vegas is considered a more prominent hotel program than Cornell, which is several hundred years old, because the reputation of the students were working leaders, or as I call myself, servant leader, right? So I think it's important to come out with fresh ideas. That's leadership. But you'll get less rejection on the ideas if you're first assimilated into the culture in which you go, where you're trusted and not seen as arrogant. Does that make any sense?
Excellent. Some more questions, please. Maybe we can take a couple more questions. The lady, please, in the backside. Yes. Please go ahead.
Undergoing a transformation than the conventional corporate leaders that we're used to?
Yeah, this is a wonderful question, and thank you for answering that.
Thank you.
There is unprecedented positivity and optimism fueled by a very young, educated Saudi population. DGDA now, the average age of the staff of DGDA is 31. You take me out of it, it goes down to like 24, okay? Now, that's the good news. But there is going to be a little bit of turbulence while the country reconfigures, because this country, blessed, if it was a Ferrari, it always operated in the fourth gear. I don't know Ferraris to have a sixth gear, But MBS's Ferrari has a 6th gear. I don't know how he does it. He works an 80-hour week. And, you know, he's always in a good mood. He'll call 2:45 in the morning. Jerry, if you change the Opera House and cantilever it, will it make the experience better? Your Royal Highness, I didn't even see this. How are you thinking about this? What all you have to do? There's going to be some turbulence to get the kingdom up to the speed of the expectations of the Crown Prince. And the next few years are going to be very demanding for leadership because there's a lot to do. Now, many of you know American football, not soccer. You know, the throw football, right? Now, in American football, if you have a great quarterback, you're going to win a lot of games. But you'll win more games if you have a great quarterback and a great receiver, because the person who throws the ball doesn't catch the ball. So you need to throw the ball, catch the ball. I would suggest to you that as a metaphor, if a head of state were a quarterback, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the world now. But he needs receivers. That's what all of you are. So until the Saudi core comes up to the general level, meaning general, like army general, not military, but leadership, he's throwing all the balls. That's Vision 2030. And the ministers now, the Giga CEOs and the leadership, they're not expected to catch one ball or two balls. There's 5 or 6 up at one time. So we got to get more leaders out there to catch more of the balls, because he's amazing. And he has a very clear vision of a very clear and sincere vision. And this is not just about statistics of how many tourists are coming or where the kingdom is in terms of global GDP. His intention is, what's the quality of life for my people? And he learned that from his beloved father, because he really cares of where this is, where the Gulf states are going. You know, the other crown princes, they're all very focused. You know, we just this week lost one of the great leaders in the Gulf, you know, which was Sheikh Khalifa in Abu Dhabi. And then the same week, Mohammed bin Zayed was made president. Great leader, very close with the Crown Prince. So you have great leadership in the Gulf. And it's my feeling, knowing the whole world and having operated in 106 countries, that over the next 10, 20, 30 years, the Gulf will provide probably more inspired leadership than any region in the world.
Yeah, I think according to schedule, we have a couple more minutes, so maybe if we have one more question. Yeah, the gentleman, please, in the backside, please.
Yes. As a leader...
or maybe we can take 2 more questions. We can take... Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. As a leader and a guru of an industry that is heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, what are your, let's say, major takeaways or lessons learned from the pandemic as a leader, and especially a leader of an industry that is really heavily impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, from a leadership point of view, I think the COVID has, those who have passed away and died because of the pandemic, may God rest their souls. But let's extract the suffering from COVID and talk about the leadership CEO angle to COVID. Because COVID is going to give us a few very, very critical lessons. Number one, it showed the interdependence globally of all societies. Now, my American friends say to me, well, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is 1/10 the size of America. Okay, now, we have too many people that have died of COVID in the kingdom. May God rest their souls, about 9,000. Well, if you take 9,000 and times it by 10, it's 90,000. It's not 1 million, which unfortunately the United States of America is at. When COVID came out, the king was one of the first heads of state in the world to go on television and say that COVID is not a Saudi problem, it's a human problem. So step up and we will give you the test, we will treat you. And Saudi Arabia's leadership, especially in its presidency of the G20, was one of the most inspired in the world. And His Majesty the King set the example for most heads of state, right? This is a good thing. But what it said to the CEOs is that we're now interdependent. So now what I said to you about knowing global marketing, knowing global finance, and if you're going to be trading in more than one city, more than one country, you have to know that. The second thing that it showed is that we are human and we have to look out for each other and we have to protect the planet. So when the Crown Prince talks about sustainability, it's not cute. It's not just a trend or a tagline. You have to protect the planet. There's going to be other viruses. And then the other thing that it taught us as leaders is that no matter how much you plan, you've got to be able to move when something comes. If you hesitate, you get into big trouble. So now as leaders, you have to have the ability to be much more flexible. There's a word in some sports called audible, meaning you plan the best you can, but then the factors change in front of you and you can't panic. You gotta say, okay, what do we do now to adjust? The Crown Prince is phenomenal about that because you got all different things. Look what's happening now in world markets as it relates to oil. Instead of panicking and zigzagging the oil price all over, the Saudis, especially with the leadership of OPEC, have been very steady. This will slow down inflation because for CEOs now, the biggest problem for 2023 and 2024 is going to be inflation, right? So that's a really, really great question. And if you think that COVID is a one-off, get ready. You know, my generation, we had hurricanes, fires, you know, things like that. But now a lot of the problems globally are interdependent. And then the final thing from a tourism point of view is that the COVID taught us that the great luxury is not a watch or a car. The great luxury is time. Am I spending time with people I love? Am I going to places that are authentic? I don't want fake anymore. I want to go to real places and I want human interaction and I don't want fake. I want real, I'll pay for it. And authenticity is very important and that's where the kingdom also from a tourism point of view is very blessed.
Thank you so much. I think there's one gentleman over there, please. We can take this as the last question.
Yeah. First of all, it's an honor and pleasure having you here, Mr. Inzerillo. And my question is, what is the most important skill or quality trait that has helped you in your career progression?
Thank you for that. It's a wonderful question. I'm going to be very slang and very casual on this one. Showing up with a work ethic and keeping your promise. My father was a wonderful man, was an orphan, my father. My father didn't even finish the 8th grade. But if my father shook your hand, you didn't need a contract. That's being good to your word, right? So in all theologies and all the good books, there's a variation of what we know to be the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. If you serve with all your heart, if you're humble and you give praise to your Creator and your people around you, all good things will come to you. You don't have to worry about it. But I find the number one trait of not people that have one good year but have good careers is that they were always pushed forward by the people they had the privilege to serve and work with. And I would say the most underrated virtue in the executive office is humility. The minute you think you got it, you know, there's an old saying, you come off a victory. You had a good victory. You walk down the road and you see God. And God says, my son, how are you? Fine, I got it from here. Don't need you. Got it from here. You know what God says to you? See you down the road. Humble. Be grateful for your blessings. Be kind. These are old-fashioned things. They sound almost sentimental. But as a component, now you have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, you have to know how to take a punch, you have to know how to surround yourself logically and academically with people who are the best in class. And the other thing, surround yourself with people that are much smarter than you. Because as a team, you're going to rely on them. You know, my people, I don't know everything, how could I? But I have the people that do. So I said, what do you think? And then at the end of the day, you have to make the decision. So another very, very important quality of being in the executive office is decisiveness. There's tough decisions, you got to take the decision. And you have to take the responsibility. So when you win, share the win, take no credit yourself. When you take a hit and there's responsibility and there's a loss, you take 100% of the loss. You never put the loss on your people. You take the hit yourself. And your people will admire you and respect you for that because they'll say you had their back and they will always have your back.
Thank you so much, Jerry. That was very inspiring. And I highly appreciate all the wisdom that you have brought and all the advice that you have provided to our students, the young generation of Saudi Arabia, our Saudi youth, of whom we are very proud of. Yes?
Fabulous. That's right.
لدى السعوديين همة مثل هذا الجبل. همة السعوديين لن تنكسر إذا حتى هذا الجبل وتساوى بالأرض.
Thank you so much, and I believe it's time that we would like to offer some token of appreciation to Mr. Jerry Inzerillo, presented by Dr. Hussam Ramadan, the university president.
Shukran. Thank you, Mr. President. Only one university, only one DGDA. Only one DGDA. Shukran. Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. And it makes me 10 years younger. That's very good. I like it. So, Tom, do we have the gift for Mr. President? So, the silhouettes of Salwa Palace now was the image of the G20. So, I have a friend of mine that you all know, the multi-billionaire Saudi genius, Prince Al Walid. And he was very clever as a marketer because he had Kingdom Tower be the image of the kingdom until I got here and said, it's going to be Salwa Palace at DGDA now. That's the image of the kingdom because that's the birthplace of the kingdom. So, Mr. President, out of profound respect and love for your leadership, your generosity, as a leader, you inspire us. So we hope in your office you will take the birthplace of the kingdom and the ancestral house of Al Saud and think of all of us because you are a part of us. And God bless you all. Dream big, please.
Thank you. Thank you,
Dream
ladies
big.
and gentlemen.
Only one DGDA, huh?
Thank you.